Hello everyone, I'm Advocate Prerana Gawade and a lecturer at LedX. So LedX is this online platform that provides various legal courses to young students as well as practitioners. In these courses, we'll deal with the provisions of law, the latest amendments made to it, as well as the important or landmark judgments on the topic. The topic of the present course is traffic laws in India. This certificate course on traffic laws is a combined study of the rules as well as the laws that are framed for the regulation of vehicles as well as traffic in India. This course is designed to help the participant understand the legal framework of traffic laws in India, the rules that are made for the enforcement of these rules, as well as the offences and penalties that are attracted when one breaches these rules and regulations. This course is intended for law students, students taking competitive exams, young practitioners, as well as the general public, as traffic laws is a day-to-day affair. This course will consist of a number of videos on the following topics. In the first unit, we'll discuss the general introduction to traffic law. In this unit, we'll discuss the complete legal framework of the prevalent rules and the laws that are related to traffic laws. The second unit will consist of traffic laws, issues, and initiatives of the government. So in spite of these rules and regulations made, there are certain issues that we face, and we'll see the issues and how the government has helped us tackle these issues by various initiatives made by them. Third is law related to driving license. So from everything, the essentials for acquiring a driving license, the process of acquiring a driving license, as well as under what circumstances a driving license can be revoked will be studied under this unit. Fourth, law related to pedestrian and drunken driving. In this unit, we'll see law related to pedestrians, that is road safety, and drunken driving, which is a recent issue that is troubling the entire nation. Lastly, we'll see the penalties for traffic offences. So if you break a law, a penalty is definitely attracted. So we'll see what makes an offence and what penalty is attracted for each of these offences. The objective of the present course is to help you understand the prevalent laws and rules on traffic law in India, to understand about road safety, to study your rights under the Act, to study your liabilities under the Act, to know what acts and omissions amount to an offence under the Act, to know what penalty is attracted on which offence being committed, to understand the loopholes of the Act, and finally also to understand how we can overcome these loopholes under the law. After completing this course, you will have complete knowledge on the traffic laws in India along with the recent amendments. You will also know the procedure for obtaining a driving license. You will know your rights under the Act as a citizen of India. You will know the procedure of obtaining registration of a vehicle. You will also know the procedure to file accident claims. So these were the details about the course. Now let us begin with the first unit, that is the general introduction of traffic law. Under this unit, we'll be studying 4 subtopics. The first is Rules of Road Regulations 1989. So these are general rules that a driver must follow while driving on the road. The second is Motor Vehicles Act 1988. So this is the principal statute that governs traffic laws in India. We'll be studying that in detail. The third is Motor Vehicle Rules 1989. In order to enforce the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988, certain rules have been framed by the central government which are implemented under these rules. And the last is the Motor Vehicles Amendment Act of 2019. So a recent amendment was made by the Legislature in the Motor Vehicles 1988 Act, and certain changes have been brought about by this new Amendment Act. So let us begin with the first topic, that is the Rules and Road Regulations of 1989. So what are traffic laws and why do we need them? India has the second largest road networks in the world and accounts to 10% of the total road fatalities in the world. So as we see with the modern technology, there are various types of motor vehicles in the market. As well as India has the highest population, with the rising population, there is also an increase in the motor vehicles. With such increase, there are also problems created in this third world, which are traffic jams, parking issues, environmental pollution, and so on. If these problems are not paid attention to, then they might create a serious chaos around us. Therefore, the Parliament has passed various laws to regulate the traffic as well as motor vehicles around us. These laws can be called as the traffic laws. These laws are intended to promote road safety, reduce fatalities, and also protect the rights of the citizens. One such law formulated is the Rules of the Road Regulations of 1989. So these rules provide the general rules that one must know while driving on the road. So you must have observed while driving a car that we drive only on the left-hand side of the road, that we take a U-turn after seeing the U-turn sign. We do not enter a one-way. So why is that so? All these rules and regulations are provided in these rules. So let us have a look at them. So the rules of the Road Regulation 1989 are laid down in order to guide the vehicles as to how these vehicles are to be driven on the road. These rules provide a total of 31 rules. These rules are made to observe road safety and to guide the driver. The basic reason for road rules is that we have an order on the road. So imagine if there's no order and people began to drive as per their will and wish, then there's going to be chaos on the road and eventually it's going to lead to accidents. To prevent this, the rules are framed, which are uniform across India, and every person, irrespective of his position, shall follow these rules. So these rules are uniform across India. So it does not happen so that within the state of Maharashtra, there are different rules and within a different state, there are different rules. No, these are constant across the whole country, and every person, irrespective of his position, whether he is an IAS officer or the Prime Minister of India, or be it a mediocre person or the common citizen of India, everybody has to follow these rules, irrespective of their position, irrespective of caste, religion, etc. Also, these rules are constant across India. We need to keep that in mind. It does not happen so that if you cross the boundary of one state, there are different rules to be followed. Whereas there are certain things that can differ state-wise. For example, the offences or the penalty that has to be paid for these offences. These may vary depending upon the state to state. But the rules of the road regulations are constant all over India. So it is clear from the title of Rules of the Road Regulation 1989 that this law refers to rules and it's not an act. We often use the terms acts and rules interchangeably, but do they mean the same? The answer is no. There's a different meaning to what rules are and what an act is under the law. So, what do we mean by an act and what do we mean by a rule? The term act refers to a statute which is created by a legislature and is approved by the president to become an enforced law. So, an act in India needs to be passed by the both houses of the parliament, that is the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. When such a bill is approved by both the houses of the parliament, it becomes an enforceable law, that is an act which has to be signed by the president in order to attain its enforcement. So these are known as the primary legislation. So the act forms as the primary law of the land, such as the Indian Penal Code of 1960, the Indian Contract Act of 1872, the Indian Partnership Act of 1936, and in this case, the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. So these are acts and they have been passed by the legislature. We have acquired the president's assent in order to formulate this particular law, and then it has been enforced all over India. But most of the laws passed are not a complete code in itself. That is, certain provisions as to their application or enforcement will be deliberately left out by the legislature. That is why the rules come into the picture. So it's not possible for the legislature to incorporate everything into an act itself. So certain subsidiary rules are made to enforce these acts. So what is a rule? A rule is a set of laws that people in a society must obey. Rules are standard guidelines which provide for the smooth functioning of the law. Rules are secondary in nature, that is, they don't have an independent existence of their own. So what do you mean by this? Rules cannot be enforced just by itself. There has to be a principal legislation through which it derives its power or through which it derives its legality. And if the basic provision falls, the rules also fall along with it. So for the rules to be enforced, there has to be an act under which rules are made. Example, the rules of the Road Regulation of 1989 are made in pursuance of the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. These rules merely provide for additional information which is not given in the act. And rules by no means can the rules go beyond the power conferred by the act or extend the same. So rules are merely the guiding principles laid down in the act. A rule cannot go beyond the act. So you cannot formulate a rule giving more power which has not been mentioned in the act. or you cannot put in any illegal provision in the rule which has not been provided in the Act or which has been held illegal in the Act. Now let's take an example. So, the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988 states that it is mandatory for every person to acquire driving license before they drive on the road. But the procedure for obtaining this license and the procedure in which circumstances the license can be revoked is all provided under the rules. So, as from this example, we can see that the Principal Act lays down a particular law and how this law is to be incorporated, or certain additional information regarding such law has been provided under rules, as everything cannot be incorporated in the Principal Act itself because this will make the law extremely lengthy and impossible to read. Similarly, the Rules of the Road Regulation 1989 lays down additional information with respect to the Principal Act, which is the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. So as the difference between rules and act is clear, let us move forward to discuss the 31 different provisions mentioned in the Rules of the Road Regulation of 1989. So the first rule lays down the short title and extent, which states that the regulations may be called the Rules of the Road Regulations 1989. It further lays down the date from which the act will, as in the rules will come into force. This rule comes to force from the first day of July 1989. So from 1st of July 1989, these rules will be applicable to every citizen of India. Furthermore, the next provision states keep left. So what do you mean by keep left? We have seen that the road is divided into two parts, that is the left side and the right side. So in India, we drive the vehicle on the left side. So we have to refer to a left hand and drive on the left hand side of the road. These are rules which have been formulated only for India. There are different rules for different countries. For example, in the United States of America, they drive on the right hand side of the road. So these rules, whichever we are discussing, all these 31 rules will be applicable only in India and not beyond India, beyond the boundaries of India. So we have to drive on the left hand side of the road and let the traffic pass from the other side of the road, that is from the right hand side of the road. The second regulation lays down turning to left and right. So there are certain rules you have to follow when you turn to the left and when you have to turn to the right. So when you want to turn to the left, you slowly move towards the left hand side of the road, you give an indicator and then you turn to the left hand side of the road. Similarly, when you want to turn to the right and you're on the extreme left hand side, then what you can do is you can drive slowly towards the center of the road, give an indicator and then turn towards the right hand side of the road. So the next rule is rule number 4. Rule number 4 lays down passing to right. So passing means to overtake. These rules lay down that in India, if you want to overtake a car in front of you, then you have to overtake from the right hand side only. However, an exception to this rule has been made in the next rule. So rule number 5 lays down passing to the left. So as a general rule, you have to overtake under all circumstances from the right hand side. However, only in one situation, which is when the car in front of you or when the vehicle in front of you has signalized or has indicated to you that it wants to turn to the right hand side of the road. That only in such a situation, you can overtake the vehicle from the left hand side road. In all other cases, you have to overtake the car in front of you from the right hand side of the road.